Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to check out the new patch notes for the Dragonhold PTS V 5.2.3. I'm Alcast from alcasthq.com. Make sure to subscribe and ring the bell so you always get notified when I upload new content. So apparently there's a lot of cool stuff in these patch notes. Let's go through them. So they added the Mid-Year Mayhem and the Merkmeyer celebration for testing this week. If you have the chance to go test it, though these are not new events, so I think they should be fine either way. I'm not sure what they want to test. Maybe they changed some stuff, who knows. We've also made the changes to damage over time abilities mentioned in last week's PTS notes, and you will notice many of these abilities have increased in damage compared to the first PTS patch. Also included are a number of bug fixes for quests found in Southern Elsweyr, UI fixes and more. Okay, so that's nice. And yeah, it's good that the damage is increased, because otherwise they would have been useless. We will see by how much they actually increase them. It's gonna be weird because first they nerfed them by 60, now they buff them again. We probably will find out when the patch goes live, and I'm not sure if this is the last. I think there will be one more week of testing, but I doubt there will be much more changes. So let's go through it. This is the Mid-Year Mayhem. Okay, whatever. Template updated for the crafty alcasthq. Templates, okay. Oh yeah, and they actually, Gina Bruno wrote something that they run into issues with the template, so they wipe the database again. So if you have created a character, you will have to do it again. I was actually stupid enough to create character on Monday morning, and then there was the PTS patch and it's gone. Great. I really think they should not bother doing these data swaps, like these database swaps. What they like, just give us templates in the first week and leave them there for the full 5 weeks. So because then I can create a character in the week 1 and keep this one for the whole PTS. I don't know why it's so hard. I talked more about this in the last notes, but let's not get hang up again. World bosses, okay, whatever. Okay, homes. Necromancer. Bonia, okay, so let's see. Increase the damage per tick of this ability and its morphs by 20%. Okay. So we will see buffs to a lot of abilities. Just keep that in mind. And it looks like a buff, but obviously it's still a nerf compared to the live server overall. Because in the first week they nerfed these things by like 60-70%. Frozen Colossus. The major vulnerability from this ability and its morphs now lasts 8 seconds after dealing any damage, rather than 3 seconds after the final smash. Enemies hit by major vulnerability cannot be affected again for 20 seconds after it applies. To prevent situations where this debuff could be kept up indefinitely by rotating an army of Necromancers. So we discussed this in the last video, like most groups don't really just stack Necros. So it's mostly for like the top endgame guilds where it's a problem. But the like meta humpers or meta slaves or whatever you want to call them, me included, we will always run the best in slot. So maybe it will be Nightblade or a Stem Sword next patch, who knows. It doesn't matter, everybody will run a Stem Sword then. Now what they're trying to do here is obviously limit. Now I think it would have been fine to just make it apply on the first hit for 3 seconds and that's it. But that obviously some people brought the argument that then, well, because it's a shorter duration, you need even more Necros to have a good uptime. Guess that's not wrong. So I'm not necessarily a fan of this change, because again, it's another cooldown. I hate cooldowns. It's shitty for the game in my opinion. And on top of that, there is no way for console players to actually see when the buff or debuff expires. It's because this is the same concept as off balance. It's impossible to see. There is a visual effect most likely, but I'm sure, because there's so much going on, it's impossible to actually see. PC, you can track the buff, no problem. But console, you can't. I mean, you have a debuff tracker, but it's so bad. So we will see how this turns out. At least they tried to combat the necro stacking. I'm not really a fan of this idea, but let's see. Now, another point I actually want to mention is, so this might work out for bosses, okay? But for trash packs, and most of the times you lose more time on trash packs than on bosses. That's just the reality. And you will still have to stack more necros because there is always several waves of enemies. When we take Sunspire, like the big room, you fight the first wave, they're all dead. You fight the second wave, they're all dead. You fight the third wave. So what do you need? You need Colossus every time a wave spawns, at least one or two. And therefore, people will most likely still stack necros. Maybe it's hard to say. So I really would love to see whether this pans out or not. And Necromancers are still really strong, so they might just simply still be the best setup. Another thing is, when you look at Sunspire, the last boss, when you do hard mode, the trash packs that spawn, usually you just spam like 4 or 5 necro ultis at the same time, so they get insta-deleted. Because a Dawnbreaker is not cutting it. You need the burst damage. And I think Colossus does just way more damage than any other ulti on stamina tunes. You could argue, well, Magicka setups, you got the Zerg ulti, Elemental Rage. So it might be a viable option, we will see. But I'm not totally sold on this change yet, if it really will solve the issues. Especially when we are looking at trash. I think Sauce just thought, well, it's only an issue on the boss. But trash fights are also important. You actually lose more time on trash usually than you do on bosses. But maybe that's a different story with vulnerability. Let's move on. Rapid Rod, increase the damage. Bonus from this passive to 15%, up from 10. Okay, that's... Why? But okay, that's pretty strong. I think 10% was already fine and enough. It's whatever. Reusable parts, increase the cost reduction granted from this passive to 50% from 25. Cool. Shocking Siphon, increase the damage per tick of this ability. Skeletal Mage, increase the damage per hit. Okay, so these are like the dot buffs. So I wonder why they changed this. But okay, no, it's fine. Disdain Harm, increase the damage reduction from this passive to 15%. Okay. Updated this passive to work more accurately with damage over time. That's a lot of damage reduction. And okay, anyway. Fixed an issue where the giddy up animation and sound effects will not play up on activating mount sprint. Okay. So here they say again, we have increased the standards in response to much of your feedback. In my opinion, they should have realized that by themselves, but most likely they just theorycraft on paper instead of actually testing stuff, and that's why they didn't see that the dots were too weak. Because you go on PTS, you compare the old versus the new build, and you immediately see that it's not worth casting most dots anymore. So I'm 100% sure they did actually not test these changes before implementing them. Unless they don't know how rotations work. Better encompass the fact that there are many dead zones of time where these abilities fall off before you can reapply them. The overall goal is to still reduce situations where running all damage over time abilities is the optimal way to play in order to obtain the most overall DPS, while still ensuring those playstyles are viable and can change up the pace of combat when comparing to other abilities. I'm not sure if these dot changes really solve the real issue, because when you look at Entropy, Soul Splitting Trap, it's good that we have more skills available, right? Like that they are actually viable now. But because we only have 6 slots per bar, it obviously causes an issue, right? Like, well, okay, you nerfed all dots, but if you still want to use them, you still want to use as much dots as possible. I'm not really sure if it will solve the issue, but we will see. Dragonknight's Arm Flame, Fiery Breath, increase the damage per tick of the damage over time from this ability and its morphs by 50%. Okay, that's a huge buff. How much did they nerf it in the first week? Yeah, we'll see. It's probably about, maybe a little bit. It will still deal a little bit less damage, but it's barely any difference anymore. Okay. That's nice. I like Fiery Breath. Mech DK, which is supposed to be a Fire Dragonknight. It spits flames. It looks cool. Poison Dragonknight. Poison Cone. Cool. Maybe next patch we will get a Stone Breath. I don't know. I don't like the idea of stone abilities on a Poison Dragonknight, but that's just me. Anyway, Searing Heat. Fix an issue where this would not apply to the standard. Okay. Updated the tooltip, cool. Searing Strike. Increase the damage per tick of the damage over time portion of this ability and its morphs by 33%. Repeating, of course. What? Don't understand. Whatever. Okay. So you probably still deal less damage because they nerfed it. But it becomes clear that like Dragonknight is supposed to be the dot class, right? So you want powerful dots. Which makes sense. But they will still deal less damage than on life currently. Which is fine, I guess. Just not as much nerfed as possible. And I remember Searing Strike. Especially when we look at Venomous Claw. I think it used to be the most powerful dot. And actually the cheapest one to cast. Which is kinda nuts. But it's fine if you have a class focused on dots like that, right? As long as it's not all of their abilities that are like this. And obviously it's not the case anymore because they increase the cost like crazy. Orphan Heart, Molten Weapons. Yeah. This is another thing, like Molten... Wait, was it Molten Armaments or the other... What was the other morph called? I can't even remember. The heavy attack, the 300%. The Dragonknights used to have this unique heavy attack mechanic where the lower the health went for the enemy, the more damage your heavy attacks would do. So you were this like heavy attack wielding boy. Which people don't like heavy attack, but if you obviously get more out of it, it would be fine, especially in execute range. But they completely scrapped that idea, and I still don't know why. Maybe it might have been too OP in PvP, because like the bullseye build in 1.6, you just insta-snipe people away with this stuff. But I don't think that was the reason why they actually changed this. I would actually like to know what was the original idea of it and why they changed it. But anyway, let's move on. Nightblade, Teleport Strike, increase the damage. Have the Twisting, increase the damage, increase the damage. This ability's teleport range is now once again 28 meters and is always reflected on tooltip and ability bar. It will not be affected by range enhancement tools such as Battle Spirit, Reach or Propelling Shield. Okay. Reduce the base cost of this ability and the concealed weapon morph to 2295 down from 27. To ensure they stand out more appropriately as melee spammables such as Lava Whip or its morphs. Price attack. Okay. Do they want us to... No, whatever. Increase the damage per tick. Okay. Sorks. So, one thing I want you to realize. Let's go through all the other stuff and then let's talk about it at the end. Ball of Lightning. This morph no longer stuns enemies at its end location. It does retain the new addition of gaining snare and immobilize immunity after casting to help stand this morph out as a defensive escape tool. Good luck catching Sorks, but okay. Fix an issue where this morph was only absorbing spell projectiles rather than any as a tooltip indicate. Okay, that's pretty big. Streak. This morph now continues to stun enemies at your end location, in addition to stunning enemies behind you after ending. This morph now continues to stun enemies at your end location. It also stuns enemies behind you after... Well, that's the same thing, right? Note that the damage still only applies to enemies you pass through. Okay, I don't know. Maybe I don't understand the English. Aha, okay. So it stuns people where you actually stop the streak. So you streak, it stuns people, and then it stuns the people behind you. Okay, now I understand. Jesus. Okay, let's move on. Increase the damage over time from this ability and smorfs by 20%, yeah. Don't know, it's probably still too weak. Most orcs don't use this, and when it's a very unique class ability that should be on a Sorc, at least in PvE, and I'm not sure if it will make a combat. It's still not, I don't think it's strong enough. It costs too much, it's too weak. You might have to tweak numbers here again later on. Bound armor. Increase the damage that each dagger deals by 21%. Okay, that's cool. But they actually saw that the damage was a little bit too low and buffed it. Maybe that was just because it also counts as a dot, so they thought like, okay, let's buff it. But it's nice because a lot of people reported that it did too little damage. I like this. I like the skill though. It fits really well into a stem Sorc, like power fantasy or whatever you want to call it. Anyway, unstable familiar. Increase the damage per hit. This ability and its morphs. Basics attacks by 20%. Increase the damage of the pulse by 20%. Okay. Twilight. Increase the damage. Okay. Templar. Luminous Shards, decrease the base cost to 4,320, down from 4,950. Down to 4k. Okay. Increase cost, lower cost, increase. Sledgehammer, baby. Blazing Spear. This morph now increases the total damage dealt by 20%, compared to the base abilities rather than 10. Increase the damage per tick of the damage over time from this ability and smorfs by 50%. Okay. Increase the damage by 33. I wonder how they make the calculations. Some get like a 20%, some a 33. I don't whatever. Increased the damage from Solar Barrage. Okay, I actually like this skill. I hope it's worth using again. We'll see. I really like how Solar Barrage turned out compared to where it was like 2 years ago. This morph's damage now once again deals damage equal to the healing coefficient. Remember that. Animal Companions Dive. The ability and its morphs now set the target off balance if you're 7 meters or further rather than 12 meters. Okay, that's cool. Cutting Dive. Increase the damage of the bleed by 43%. Okay. Increase the damage over time by 20. So it looks like they increased the AoE dot ticks by like 20 and others by like 30 to 40%. Winter's Embrace. Impaling Shards. Reduce the cost of this ability to 3,220. 240. Since the primary function of this ability is utility rather than damage. Okay. Increase the damage of this morph by 80%. This will allow it to stand out from other damage over time abilities. Yeah, but they just standardize all the stuff, and now they already make exceptions, or like, what is this? Anyway, we will see how. Maybe it still deals the same amount of damage compared to others. I have no clue. Anyway, now two-handed. Increase the damage per tick by 50%. Okay. Critical Shark, 38% damage increase. Blade Cloak, damage increase. Twin Slashes, damage increase. Block Race. The healing of this morph will be increased by 33. Okay, that's cool. Poison Arrow, increase the damage over time portion of this ability and its morph by 33%. This morph now applies its execute bonus to the entire ability rather than only the damage over time. Okay, so the direct damage hit will also get increased. Okay, that's cool. So I think I saw a forum thread where someone said it almost deals the same damage as on life, or like something like that. I can't remember. Increase the damage by 20%. Destructive touch, increase the damage by 33, increase the damage by 20. So yeah, single target dots by like 33 and the AoE by 20. 20% soul trap. Because it's an AoE skill, I guess. Infectious Claw, increase the damage or time portion of this ability and its morphs by 50%. That's cool. I'm not sure how much, because they once, didn't they say at the start of the PTS that, or like, was it last PTS, that Werewolf overall should do like 25% more damage compared to other classes, but have worse sustain. So things should cost more, but also deal damage, because it's like a Werewolf, which is fierce and what you want to like go full berserk. Increase the damage over time from this morph's bleed by 24, so yeah. I think Werewolf got hit a lot in the last 3-4 patches. We'll see how it will turn out. Fighter skill, Trapeze, increase the dot by 33, 20. Why is this bad? There. Increase the damage over time of this morph by 60, okay. The Scalding Rune actually did a little bit less damage than other things, so cool to see. Maybe it will be even more viable now. They didn't nerf the direct damage component. Blood Drinker, increase the damage bonus for bleed abilities to 33%. Hello. Sounds strong. Could be nice for some bleed builds. This set will no longer scale in cost reduction with item level. Deadly Strike, increase the damage bonus for this set to 20% up from 14. That is pretty cool. So I actually used this set on my stem DK for a while, and this definitely makes it even more viable. So I just hope for the people that use this set that you did not deconstruct it. And Ravager fix. So now the one thing, so this looks like a lot of changes, right? But 90% of these changes is just fixing them what they broke in the first place. Okay? It looks like they made a lot of work, but if they hadn't used the sledgehammer in the first patch week, they would not have to change all these things again in the 4th week. They could actually have used these resources to work on other stuff. So I like the changes. I just don't like how they operate. It's just, it's basically 1, 2, 3 weeks just out the window, because they had to make all, they probably had to theory craft these changes, calculate them again, yada yada. So it's just like 2-3 weeks lost of resources you could have spent somewhere else. Because now these nerfs are about 20 to 30% compared to life, which I more or less said, which is kind of okay, because we don't want sledgehammer 60-70% nerfs. Fine-tune stuff, nerf it by 20 and see how it is, and maybe adjust it the next patch. Yeah. I just hope they will learn from this. But this game is 6 years old. Robble is gone, it's a new combat team. Before I could say, well, you know, it's a new combat team. Of course they will balance stuff differently than Robble, but now these changes are the same combat team, so I can't even come with that excuse anymore. I just hope they get their shit together till the next chapter, because from there on I think a lot of people will come back to check out the game again. So I really hope they have it together till then. It's not easy, it's an MMO, they have a lot of changes to make, they don't have a lot of people. That's why I say they need to stop with the sledgehammer, because they could have worked on other more important stuff than just reverting their own changes again for 2-3 weeks. But anyway, overall I like it. I don't think the patch will turn out as bad as people think it will. Yes, it is still depressing. It's always depressing when you read the first patch notes, because you just see nerfs and nerfs. I think Sauce also needs to figure out the way to change that, because it can't be that the whole player base is upset every 3 months. If this would happen every year, okay, I can understand it, but I think every 3 months, it just pisses people off too much, and they will just go play other stuff. Which you can definitely see at the player base right now. But again, they will most likely will come back next chapter anyway, and Source probably knows that, so maybe they just don't give a F. Let me know in the comment section what you actually think about these changes. Like always, I will update the builds on the website. I'm already working on them. Day one, they should be all up to date. There won't be that many changes, okay? Rotations will most likely change again, but other than that, there is not much more to it. Champion points, yada yada. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the juicy like button. Thanks for watching and see you soon. Bye.